All right, thanks for staying on. Reporting continues here on In Focus. Ethiopia has denied that it staged an attack over the weekend along its border with Sudan, blaming unrest and the disputed zone on rebels from the Tigray region. This comes after Sudan's military on Saturday said several soldiers had been killed in an attack by armed groups and militias linked to the Ethiopian military at Al-Fashaka. For more on this, I'm joined now by Ebrahim, Deen, Program Officer and Researcher for Africa and the Gulf at Afro-Middle East Center. Good to have you with us, Ebrahim. Several Sudanese soldiers, as reported, have been killed in this renewed infighting in that particular region. Could this be a start of an escalation of tensions in the Horn?
Thanks for having me. I mean, there's always been tensions in Ethiopia and Sudan over this Al-Fashaka region, which is actually Sudanese territory, but, which the Ethiopians have constantly or continuously actually irrigated Ethiopian farmers because it's very fertile land, and Sudan hasn't done anything until probably the last 2 years, where it's actually, decided that it wants to. Now, the Sudanese military, has used this to actually try and gain a rally around the flag effect, especially because there's currently, protests in Sudan, and the military basically would use this to actually try and create a rally around the flag effect. Similarly, it's interesting to note that the Ethiopians haven't denied that this has happened. And that they're now blaming it on the Tigray forces. So it has happened, and it's most likely the Ethiopian groups, not Tigray forces. In terms of it destabilizing the Horn as a whole, I think the issue of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, the issue of the current Tigray government conflict, that's spreading, those I think have bigger, will have bigger impacts on the region itself. But in saying so, because there's currently the Sudanese military is already in a problematic and stressful and strenuous situation because it's facing off these protests, it may decide to escalate, to actually weaken, or to shift that anger from the population rather than towards the regime, move it towards Ethiopia. And so, there may be that escalation.
Now, as you mentioned, there's always been this tension around this particular area with Sudan. Can then Sudan use the Tigray refugees as a bargaining chip?
I think that has been Sudan now, especially because of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, because it's moving closer towards Egypt. This issue of Tigray, because it borders Sudan and Tigray refugees, and the Ethiopians are accusing Sudan of funding Tigray rebels. Sudan can actually use this as a negotiation or bargaining chip, but in saying so, it does, however, need to be noted that the area is Sudanese. The Ethiopians are calling for negotiations and dialogue. The UN, territorially, it's Sudanese territory. And so, the Ethiopians don't have that much of a leg to stand on, as far as this is concerned. But, the Ethiopians, the army would want to carry on this because it's trying to encircle the Tigray rebels. And part of it would be using, sympathetic farmers in Al-Fashaka to say that, we Addis are protecting you, so join us in the fight against, the Tigray rebels.
Yeah. I mean, as you mentioned, Ethiopian farmers there have been allowed to stay in their farms, even though it is by and large a Sudanese area. Does this put them in danger of any kind?
I don't think the Sudanese military would want to attack the farmers itself, but I do think that the Sudanese military, especially as pressure goes up and ramps up, and we were seeing this previously in March 2020, where the Sudanese may want the territory back. And Ethiopia now, before maybe it could try to protect the farmers, but now it's less likely that it will be able to do so. So, yes, they're in danger of the lands, in a sense, being taken away. I don't, however, think the Sudanese military would want to actually, invade the region and actually cause more deaths and actually place more pressure on the Sudanese military. But, as I said, in saying so, the population of Sudan are very adamant, that the region is Sudanese. And so, this attempt to actually use these contested areas, in a sense, to actually create, to enhance or increase support for the regime, both in Ethiopia and in Sudan, could lead to escalation.
Now, in February, Khartoum claimed that Ethiopia's northern neighbor, Eritrea, was also getting involved here. They sent soldiers into the disputed region. Could this lead to a spillover of some sort in Eritrea, in Egypt, and in Sudan?
I think, in relation to the February claims, that has a lot to do with the fact that, just this year, there's been the military agreement that was signed in March between the Sudanese